The information expressed in the following podcast is intended for educational purposes only and was created by and belongs solely to Believe Limited and the Flow podcast and does not necessarily reflect the views of our sponsors. Please speak to your healthcare provider before making any medical decisions.
Flow is straight talk about extreme periods. We've been a monthly podcast for the past 5 years focused on serving the bleeding disorders community, making sure we have clinicians and patients show up to tell stories that act as permission slips for our listeners, to also tell their story, to advocate, and to make some change in the system we're working with to get our health needs met. So with that in mind, we are honored to be in this room of Flowsters to share some popcorn stories.
Yep.
Hi, I'm Jessica. Welcome to Flow. I'm here like every month with Sarah Watson, sex therapist. And this month, we are in Detroit, Michigan in a room of Flowsters. And we all want to know,
how's your flow?
That was great. This session is called Chicken Soup for the Flow. Does anyone remember those books?
Yes, right? Like a throwback. We were just talking about it. Like the teenage soul. Exactly.
And you know, they always had like a subset title, like stories of this and that. So we did title it Stories of Extreme Bleeds and Medical Gaslighting and HTCs. But we are here to talk about whatever is most pressing.
We're just here to chat about periods.
And so while we think for a moment, we're just going to give a thank you to our sponsor, Takeda.
Thanks, Takeda.
This ad is brought to you by Von Vendy, Von Willebrand Factor, Recombinant.
Hi, my name is Nicole. I didn't always feel empowered to speak up for myself or ask for the care and support I needed. Becoming part of a community and hearing other people's experiences helped to change my perspective. That's why my deciding factor is making my voice heard. To hear my story and access other helpful resources, drop by Von Vendy, that's VONVENDI.com/patient-stories.
We're recording today. We call it Chicken Soup for the Flow. Does anyone remember the books Chicken Soup for the Soul?
Yes.
So this is for the bleeding disorder soul or for the flow. We are focused here on menstruation and extreme menstruation. We're collecting stories, so we're asking you to share what kind of stories we're sharing are those of extreme bleeds, medical gaslighting, and HTCs. We do let the conversation flow naturally.
Even if you're not currently menstruating, we want to hear your stories. Or I think someone walked in and was like, hysterectomy, right? Like we want to know why, what happened. And we want the knowledge to be shared with everyone. So
yeah, menstrual reality includes everything that happens through menopause. We are here to focus on that conversation as well. What is the extreme parts of the menopausal part of our experience?
So we'd love to hear your stories.
If I may ask for the nourishing details, if you'd be willing to talk about your ablation and how it's been helping you with your symptoms of anemia, would it be all right? Yeah.
Hola a todas. Mi nombre es Celia Patiño.
My name is Celia Patiño. But about 10 years ago, I had a procedure because my periods were very heavy.
Y siempre tenía anemia, así es que sangraba bastante. Y lo que hicieron fue que creo que quemaron la endometriosis.
Heavy bleeds, so I had to have a heat ablation.
Después de eso tenía un poquito de periodo durante 2 años.
So then after that, I had somewhat of a period for 2 years.
Y después de 2 años ya por completo se me quitó mi
After 2
periodo.
years, I didn't have a period.
Pero creo que se me quedó la menopausia porque yo sigo con los calores.
After that, I think I continued to have
Y
menopause because I
muchos
continued with hot
síntomas
flashes.
todavía, pero ya no tengo anemia.
But after that, I do not have any more anemia.
Se me quitó.
It's done.
Thank you for sharing that. Amazing.
Anyone else experience anemia?
Yeah. Who's anemic? Oh, lots of hands. Lots of hands.
And I was diagnosed with anemia. I'm not diagnosed with the bleeding disorder, but I am diagnosed as anemic, and they don't know why, obviously. But yes, I do get regular iron infusions, and the anemia is a huge struggle. So,
Can you share a little bit more about what that feels like? How does it show up, right? So obviously you're getting infusions, but what does that look like day to day for you?
day to day, I can feel like I get the flu, the iron flu for about a week after an infusion, and I didn't know that was a real thing, but they call it the iron flu after an infusion, where you just feel like you're dying, like you've run a marathon and just terrible for about a week. But then as your body absorbs iron, you start to feel so much better. And then, I'll feel great for a few months. And then as I start to sleep more and more and find that my energy is getting lower and bruising and things, that's when I know that I need another infusion. You can just really start to feel it. Sometimes insurance won't cover it till you're a little lower, but you kind of know when you're ready.
Okay. We had some more hands over here. Anemic?
Same as her. I'm anemic, but I don't have hemophilia. I haven't been diagnosed yet. I'm talking about having iron infusions now because they sent me an email and my doctor said, your anemia is so low that you can have a stroke. I said, but yet I don't have hemophilia. And that was my response because I'm so tired of asking to get tested and I haven't gotten tested. So I said, so I think now we need to talk about iron infusions because I take daily iron supplements. So
Sure.
it's still low. So somehow we're missing something. So that's where we're at right now. But I'm always exhausted and I teach. So I'm running around after kids and it's tiring.
I mean, it's tiring just to be a teacher without anemia, right? Uh, but so how many times have you asked to be tested for a bleeding disorder and been denied?
Since my daughter was 13 and she's 20.
7 years.
So I never really worried about myself because it was always about my son. And then once my 13-year-old was like, Mom, I think I need to get tested. That's when I was like, you know what? Let's get tested.
Yeah.
And they said that we didn't have to get tested, that we were fine.
She
No, no. And then now my 11-year-old, she's been having really bad bloody noses and like bruising and stuff. And she plays softball. So I was like, okay, I need to get her tested. So we just switched pediatricians to hopefully get her tested. Because she has a twin. So when the twins were born, they only tested the boy. They didn't test my daughter.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you for raging with me on that one. And are you at a treatment center asking for these things?
I have.
Because I'm about to
Kaiser.
rage
I don't
for
have
you.
a treatment center because I have Kaiser. The Kaiser does not have treatment centers. But I really like my son's hematologist. It works for him, so I don't want to switch.
Okay. Okay.
For him.
Not for you.
Yeah.
Right. Anemia?
So, yeah, I'm not currently anemic, but I also had an ablation 3.5 years ago. And I'm very fortunate that after my ablation, I have not had a period. And I know they're only like 35% successful. And then I think after 2 years, it drops even lower than that. So, I've spotted just a couple of times, but not even enough to like need anything more than like a panty liner, and never for more than like 2 or 3 days here or there. Pretty sure it's because I prayed, please don't come back, please don't come back, please don't come back. But prior to that, I was very fortunate to have a hematologist, and we did not go to an HTC. We still don't. Um, but we were at a private clinic, so my son's hematologist saw adults, children,
Yep.
everybody. We followed her from an HTC to a private clinic to another hospital to I would follow her across the United States if I needed to. So she actually pushed me for a couple of years, like, why don't we test your levels? And I'm like, nah, I'm good. Because, you're in the midst of surviving and taking care of children, and you're like, I'm not going to face reality right now. But, like, I'm very fortunate that every time I brought him in, she was like, so you already touched your levels? And I'm like, maybe next time, just, she pushed me for care. I know that's extremely rare,
Very.
but she exists. There are those doctors that exist. Like, she treats very aggressive. She's very, very like, let's take care of you because you can't take care of him. If, like, I'm telling you, she's a unicorn. She is.
Where does this unicorn reside?
New Orleans.
New Orleans. Okay.
You know who I'm talking. So it's Dr. Singleton. Everybody knows her, but I mean, she was sent directly from heaven. She has saved my child's life numerous times. So I have her cell phone number. I have texted her at 3 a.m. before. Like, she is amazing. So finally, I came in and she straight up told me one day, she's like, you look terrible. She's like, you look awful. We're going to check your iron. And so she checks it, and I come back in a couple weeks and she's like, I'm not really sure how you walked in here. Like, it was that low.
Oh, my.
So, and I mean, in hindsight, I was sleeping like 17 hours a day.
Oh.
Like, I would take my son to school, come back home, go to sleep, go pick him up from school,
Go back to
go back to sleep, cook dinner, go back to sleep. Like, it was bad, but,
Mm.
it was a multitude of things. Like, I just thought, I'm tired. I'm not going to, face reality. And it was bad. So I did a series of iron infusions and they like it. I did I think it's like 5 or 6 weeks, like once a week for 5 or 6 weeks.
Okay.
I opted for that instead of the one, really big iron
Mhm.
infusion because I was like, that doesn't sound fun. So I was good for probably about 6 months, and then they dropped back down, and she was like, we can't keep doing this. So I was like, what do you suggest? And she's like, you need to go to your gynecologist and ask for an ablation. And I was like, cool. So I did. And she was like, let's do it.
Yeah.
She didn't,
No questions, huh?
nope.
Oh, we love a gynecologist that listens
She
too.
she
Yes.
did not she didn't second guess it. She didn't question me. She had my records from the hematologist.
I was like, got it. Cool.
Yeah, so she did, she's like, so this is 3.5 years ago. So I guess I was 34, 35, somewhere in there. I've had my tubes tied for 12 years since my son was born. We've been finished. And she was like, I really don't want to do a hysterectomy. Let's do the less invasive thing. She said, if your ablation fails,
Then.
then we'll revisit that. She said, because they can do a hysterectomy now where it's less invasive than it
Yeah.
was,
Yeah. Yes.
for our parents, for our moms. So she's like, if your biopsy comes back normal, I'm going to have to just do an ablation. They're not going to approve a
Right.
hysterectomy. And I was like, I don't care what you do, just do it. So I think the next week I did the biopsy, and 2 weeks later I did the ablation.
Wow.
And I think I've only infused one time in the last 3.5 years, and that's for
Wow.
a dental procedure.
That's amazing.
That's it. Yeah, quality of life.
Skyrocket. Just.
Yes.
Anyone else have a doctor who really listened? A unique experience? Yeah.
Ooh, let's hear all about them.
I would say it's my OBGYN. She's actually the one that would have got me diagnosed, I guess. I she I have two boys, both with severe hemophilia. I knew I was a carrier. She tested my levels, of course, but I was pregnant, so everything fluctuates. Didn't get tested after I had my kids, and would go to my regular visits. But like I was telling her, I grew up. My parents both passed away when I was younger from the bad blood epidemic, and never really talked about our periods. Like my grandparents didn't talk about that. I think the school nurse maybe told me something, but don't really even remember any of that.
Sure.
Grew up not talking really with my friends about it. Like it wasn't really something that was discussed, I guess. I live in a house of boys, so we don't talk about it because I live with boys. Um, then finally, I was at some family education weekend, and I'd been to all the, navigating an ER and all the same topics, and went to another random one that I hadn't been to, I guess. And that one that somebody went off topic and started talking about their periods, and I was like, oh, it's not normal that you bleed for 10 to 14 days.
Oh, no,
I thought it was my whole life. And I then talked to a couple of my best friends. One of them has factor V deficiency, actually, and is exact opposite of me. And she came with me to the doctor. I started because I had my period. It had been fluctuating on and off, and I thought it was like menopause. I'm 40. It's kind of that time, I guess. And went and saw her, and she's like, "Okay, we'll watch it. Just keep a journal of when it happens and stuff like that, if it does." And then last year, right around Christmas, right before Christmas, I started bleeding. I had bled for about 3 months straight. I went in, and she's like, we need to, she did the biopsy. We did the ultrasound or everything else, found polyps, cysts, fibroids, everything size of oranges. It was bad. And she's like, I don't know how you're living through this pain. It has to be painful. And she's like, we need a hysterectomy, and we need to get you medicine and stuff too. So she told me to go see the hematologist, the HTC. I couldn't get into him because he's the only adult hematologist, and he's apparently amazing. We see the pediatric one, and I couldn't get into him. So she sent me over to the oncology hematology in our town, which I went to that appointment, and that was like, I told them what hemophilia was. And
Oh, the good old, hey, girls have hemophilia too talk.
I don't even think I don't even she knew anything. Like, I don't think anything she knew. Yeah.
Wow, we gave her too much.
Yeah.
We gave that doctor too much.
So called my OB again, and I said, "Can you please like help me, because I can't. He's not taking. I can't get in for like 2 years with this guy." And she called up there and got me in right away. And they tried factor on me to see what my levels, and did peak and trough tests and everything else. I had to go up for like 3 days in a row, and they were doing stuff. But then he was on board. She got him involved, and everything's great now. Like, I still have not been on factor since all of that. That was in April. But I don't know. No hysterectomy now, and that was the
So no more menstruation.
Wow. 10 out of 10 recommend.
10 out of 10.
Highly recommend.
10 out of 10. Do it, right? What can we talk a little bit about, or would you be willing to share a little bit about the 3 months of bleeding and how you navigated that?
Was a lot. Like, literally, when I finally went to go see her, it was because we were leaving for Christmas to my in-laws, and I was like, I don't think I can sit for 3 hours in the car to get there. Like,
Right.
and that's when I finally called her, because I was like, I cannot. Every time I stand up, I just feel like it's gushing, and it's like a clot, or it's like, it's just,
Yeah.
I couldn't do anything, and I literally would lay in bed, and I was like, yeah.
So your quality, you didn't have quality of
No.
life.
No, and then, but I still have to function, because
Right.
I have a 11 and 13-year-old at the time, and I'm like, you have to.
You have to mom.
We have soccer practice, and they both have hemophilia, so we're doing their stuff and dealing with them. And my husband, and we own a business, and we were building a house at the time, and we're doing all the stuff. So it was a lot, but that's what women do, right? So right.
Right. I mean, no, there's no judgment. Yeah, but that is exactly like, how many times do we hear? Yeah, exactly. We do everything, right? And we're like, oh, this is normal pain. This is normal bleeding. When we have convinced ourselves, because we have to keep going. There's no system set up to, unfortunately, support until something really
But yeah,
intense
it's more of the
happens.
mindset, because my husband, once I said something to him and like he would notice, then he was completely like, why didn't you do something? Like, you should have done it. But it was me convincing myself that I needed that, because nobody can do it better than me. So
Well, obviously, no one can do it better than you, but asking, well,
Yeah.
good for you.
Yeah, not knowing what's normal means we might normalize things that are not normal. Wait,
Yeah.
how many times can I say normal? But yeah, if we don't know what is normal, then we normalize things that aren't normal.
Correct.
Anyone else? When was the first time you understood that what you were experiencing wasn't normal? How old were you, maybe, the first time you experienced it?
Yeah. I don't think we had the diagnosis of hemophilia yet. It was probably about 6 months away. And do you remember coupons on Sundays, and we'd cut them
Heck
out?
yeah.
So in the lunchroom, everybody would throw their extras in a pile. And I went, oh, does anybody need this tampon one? Or this tampon one? Or this tampon one? Or this tampon one? They're like, why do you need that many tampons? I says, well, I go through 3 boxes in a week. No way, they told me. I went, yeah, why? How many do you go through? 1 box in 3 months. And I was like, no way. So I didn't realize the normal. I remember talking to a gynae, and he says, oh, you're heavy, whatever. But it really wasn't until I had my son got diagnosed, and the hematologist actually said something. Are you having any problems? And but at that point, I was just still a carrier. So
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
This weekend has taught me a lot of things, especially about my own body
Mm.
and how much I've internalized. I don't know what I've internalized, but of gaslighting myself. With my son with hemophilia is cut and dry. We'll do anything to get you the medicine. But for me, when I had excessive vaginal bleeding,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, "Oh no, you're not going to tell me what needs to be happening. I'm going to go and get this bleeding to stop and what have you." Well, I was having a normal gynecological experience that maybe not even required factor at that time. And then other times, I go into a colonoscopy, and I understand that we really should have factor
Mm-hmm.
because if polyps are there and to take them out. And then I notice I don't have my medic alert on. And I noticed when I went to Portland and went on a backpacking hike in a remote part, I chose not to bring it. And I'm just really trying to understand. I'm not asking for therapy, but it might be helpful.
She looks towards the therapist.
Don't know what it's all about.
Okay. So I started bleeding whenever I was 13.
Okay.
That was late in my family, but it was only a couple months into my cycles that my mom realized you're bleeding way more often than you should because it was like 10 days on, a week off, 10 days on. And she's seeing that I'm going through all of these pads. And so luckily she noticed because we had never really talked about periods. So I didn't know it was normal. And she took me to the doctor, and I have been on birth control since I was 13. The only time I get off of it is whenever I'm ready to have a kid. And even after getting my tubes removed, I stay on birth control because my flows are so heavy and such a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
And some birth controls have not even worked. I've had one that had me, it made my flow a lot lighter, but it was like a few months of bleeding every single day. So, gotta be on the right birth control, but birth control has been a lifesaver for me.
Yeah. Great.
I think I noticed when I was in high school and I would miss a lot of school days. And I noticed that my best friends wouldn't miss school when they're on their period. So I was like, oh, you're being dramatic. Like, to stay. I'm like, no, like I am bleeding through my clothes. Like I physically can't go. And so it's embarrassing because then my big brothers knew when I was on my period because first of all, it wasn't really talked about in my home.
Sure.
I was raised by my mom, who was raised by her great grandma. So she was a very old school. So we didn't really talk about it. So I thought it was normal that I stayed home for 3 days or 4 days right after having my period. And come to think of it, wasn't normal. And I started noticing more when I had my daughter and she started going through it. She's like, Mom, I can't go to school. And I'm like, wait, you're not supposed to do that. Like, you're supposed to go to school. You should be able to go. She goes, I can't.
Right.
She goes, I'm bleeding through everything. So
My.
that's when I found out that it wasn't normal. But I was going through pads like crazy.
Yeah.
She came to you. What was your response when she's like, I don't think this is normal? Were you able to relate to your own experience? Yeah, yeah. It's a win for her to be raised by someone who, yeah.
Oh, that's so good.
Yo quiero agregar algo acerca del procedimiento que me hicieron.
She wants to add a little bit more to the.
Please, yes, yes, of course.
Antes de hacerme el procedimiento, ya un ginecólogo me iba a quitar la matriz,
Aside from that, a gynecologist is going to do a hysterectomy.
pero entonces mi hematólogo habló con él porque le dije que tenía hemofilia porque solamente tengo 36% de coagulación, tengo hemofilia leve.
The hematologist told him that he only had ¿cuánto? 36%
36% de coagulación.
that she only had 36% of clotting.
Entonces, cuando hablaron los dos doctores, mi ginecólogo me dijo, no te la voy a hacer, la voy a cancelar,
They said, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to cancel it.
porque el especialista, mi hematólogo, dijo que me llevara a otro hospital, es Memorial, pero que él quería que fuera en el centro de Houston.
Because the hematologist said, no, even though it was Memorial Hospital, he said, I'm not going to do it. I want you to go down to al medical center.
Mi ginecólogo
Medical center.
dijo que él no tenía privilegios en el otro hospital, así es que me la canceló.
So doctor said, no, I can't do it because he didn't have privileges at that other hospital, so he canceled it.
Fui con otro doctor y no le dije que tenía hemofilia y me hizo el procedimiento, pero como fue rápido el procedimiento de media hora, que salí a mi casa, yo inmediatamente saliendo de ahí me puse el factor, porque yo estaba cansada.
So she went anyway, and she didn't tell the doctor because it was a 30-minute procedure. So she went to the doctor. She had the procedure, and then afterwards she went home and she infused.
Yo estaba de la anemia
Because I was so fed up and so tired. So you were doing that.
sí, fue que él no quiso. Dijo, yo no tengo privilegios, pero él sí podía venir al otro hospital. Yo creo que como hematólogo tenía que apoyar a un paciente.
And as a hematologist, she figured, well, I guess, as a hematologist, he had to probably, support the patient.
I was about 13 when I got my period. I think I had it 3 times and it was heavy, probably like 7, 8 days, not too long, but super heavy. And then, so we went to the doctor and they put me on the pill. So I was on the pill until probably 31 years old, and it did help substantially.
Mm.
It helped a lot. It helped a lot. I still had heavy periods, but they were shorter and not as heavy. Um, but the thing is, I'm from a family of 3 girls. Um, my mom didn't know that she carried or had hemophilia. We all had heavy cycles, all of us girls. So it was our normal. It was our normal. So it wasn't until we started talking to other women and other girls and we found out, this is not quite normal. But I think that my mom masked it by getting us on birth control. But it did help. So it was just what she knew and what the doctors told her was the best thing to do for heavy uterine bleeding. So
Where are you?
thank you for asking.
Oh, my pleasure.
So I have been in menopause. So I'm 46 years old. I went into menopause about 3 years ago. Now this
Yay.
is kind of a fluke because I had to get my thyroid out and I was
Cool.
already spotty like hit or miss before. So I guess I was probably
That's a sign.
pre.
Mhm.
And then it just stopped. It stopped
After
I got my thyroid out. So
Yeah.
this is the kicker. My endocrinologist said that's not a thing. It's not a thing. And she's like I'm not going to say the world renowned, but she's a very highly sought after endocrinologist that does these specialized tricky thyroid surgeries, which doesn't sound tricky, but it can be. But my OBGYN was like, "Oh, it's such a thing. It happens." So I don't know, but so I'm done. I don't have to deal with it.
So you're done.
I'm done.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye, Miss Flo.
Discrepancy between it's a thing or it's not a thing between two medical professionals is why it's so valuable to gather in a room and share stories with each other. Yeah.
I guess when I realized that my periods were not normal was not until my daughter was diagnosed and I started coming to these conferences. Because my family was just, we bleed heavy, we miss school. That's just how our family works. You wear 2 pads with your tampons. And, thank goodness period panties came out because that was added with all of that. But that was just, we're a family of bleeders and nobody had a diagnosis up until my daughter. And that was normal. And now I'm learning the past couple of years that it is not normal.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I'm still at the stage where I'm very heavy, but in premenopause. My doctor doesn't believe me. I'm 43 and having hot flashes, but I'm not 50, so he won't test me yet. But
So we're gonna tell him about this book. Let me get on my big high horse, right?
I'm not old enough for hormone testing.
He's a liar. And he's misinformed. We're gonna go to Dr. Mary Claire Haver's book called The New Menopause. And you are going to get that book and you are going to then test yourself because there's a little beautiful quiz in there and you're going to take the book in and say, "Oh gosh, let's see what the research says here. Here it is for you."
And I could show him I'm just sitting here right now dripping sweat. He says I don't have hot flashes.
And I link my little my estradiol patch to stop those hot flashes. It's a delight. It's a little patch. It's great. The book is called The New Menopause by Dr. Mary Claire Haver. Haver. Highly, highly recommend.
I will get that and follow up
Because
with my doctor.
there are a lot of misinformed physicians.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Mary Claire Haver.
Would you like to share? Would you like to share? No. See?
Would you?
Oh,
Sorry, sis. Free?
Yo empecé mi periodo a los 13 años.
Started my period at 13.
Fue muy abundante, pero pues como a esa era criada, creí que era lo normal, nadie me decía nada.
It was very heavy, but because that's how it was in my family, I thought that it was the normal.
A los 21 años me quitaron la matriz.
At 21, I did have a hysterectomy.
Tenía un niño con hemofilia y los doctores decían que era, y acaba de tener una hija. Y,
A little boy.
y ellos decían que lo correcto era que ya me operara para que no tuviera más niños con hemofilia.
I had a daughter, and they did tell me that that he did have hemophilia, and after that I had a daughter, and that was okay.
Yo pensé que a raíz de que me había operado tan joven, mis periodos eran abundantes, de todos modos, muy abundantes. Del mes que era, yo creo que 20 días tenía yo sangrado. Así me lo llevé por 10 años.
I thought that because having those really heavy periods, I thought that for 20 años,
Como 10, 12 años
for 10,
después de mis hijos.
after having my children, I thought that was,
Y no lo platicaba con nadie.
didn't share that with anybody.
Yo siempre vivía en angustia, pues, porque tenía un esposo y decirle: "No se puede porque no me siento bien", era bien
I was
difícil.
always anxious, and because I was married, I was telling my husband, "We can't tonight because
Hasta que un
it's
día
very difficult."
el doctor que veía a mi hijo me dijo que él siempre me miraba como muy decaída y me mandó a hacer análisis. Él incluso era ginecólogo en mi clínica.
Until my husband,
Y
always see me sad and told me, "You know what? We need to go to the doctor because
cuando
see me very sad and told me to go to the doctor."
Cuando me hicieron la revisión y los análisis, me dijo que yo tenía mucha suerte de no haber tenido cáncer,
And he did tell me that the doctors did say, "You know what? You're very lucky that you didn't come up or have any symptoms of having cancer."
porque
Symptoms.
porque al estar operando se dieron cuenta que traía demasiados, ¿cómo se llama? Miomas,
Because when they did, they did see that she had a lot of myomas.
y a los 41 años, en la sala de operaciones, me preguntaron, pero yo estaba más dormida que despierta, que tenían que quitar 2 ovarios y la matriz.
At 41, they did see that they had to take her uterus and her ovaries at stage 41.
Y mi esposo dijo:
So he was very
Mi vida ha cambiado,
changed.
me siento mejor, pero me enfrenté al problema de que por falta de educación me vinieron el cambio de vida y era otro episodio que pues ya los comentaremos, pero también hay que informarse de que es quitar matriz, ovarios y los problemas que vienen después, ¿verdad? Pero
I was very happy because it was a whole different chapter of my life. But we do need to be educated. We need to find those things up and share because it was for many years I was very shut out from everybody. I didn't share anything. I was just I
y,
kept everything to myself.
y me doy cuenta de que mis hermanas pasaron después por el mismo problema. Y yo ahora les digo a ustedes, edúquense, qué bueno que están estos grupos, abran su mente, platíquenlo, porque nosotros veníamos criadas de abuela y todos estos tabús y al menos el cáncer por matriz y ovarios me salvé. Gracias a Dios.
We were also raised by our grandmother.
Ese es mi testimonio.
We were very closed and we never shared anything. And now, after sharing with my sisters, we found out that we had a lot of things in common. And now we share everything. But I tell all of you that you guys should share things. And now, thanks to all these conferences and everything, you educate yourselves.
Y en cuanto a eso, me tuvieron que poner, transfusión antes de la cirugía, durante la cirugía y después de la cirugía, porque estaba demasiado anémica. No sé si me faltaba hierro o algo, pero pues algo tenía, ¿verdad? Después de tantos años, entonces yo las
I
igual.
had something because after that, they did give me a transfusion before surgery, during surgery, and after surgery.
Y hablen con su esposo, su pareja, díganle todas sus...
Share with your partners.
Okay, well, that's very important.
Yeah. So I had not heard anybody say this before she said it. And I don't think I've ever heard anybody say this out loud at a conference. And I think that I'm probably going to say it. So, like, something nobody has ever talked about is like you have a period for weeks and weeks and months. And nobody talks about how that affects your sex life with your partner on top.
We're talking about it tomorrow.
So am I getting ahead of myself?
You are.
Like, that's not, I mean, like, you talk about how, it affects you and your energy and how you feel and your daily routine and your daily life, but it does suck when you're like, sorry, can't, still bleeding for 3 months, if that's a barrier for you and your partner. Some people it's not, and that's fine too.
Fair.
I think in this crowd right now, that's okay. In this crowd, it is a huge barrier, right? We're talking about extreme bleeding. It's not just like, oh, I'm wearing a panty liner, right? It's like, oh, I'm gushing, and there may be a giant clot down there, right?
The
So,
Crimson Tide.
you know, let me get in there, right? Like, no. Yeah, but tomorrow in the morning, right at 9 a.m., y'all come on down. We're going to talk about sex and periods and all sorts of things because it's so important, right? It's about our quality of life. Yeah.
You know, even if you have like, a close group of friends, that's not going to be relatable to them if they're not affected by bleeding disorder and they have a
Sure.
period for
Sure.
5 to 7 days a month and then they're done and then they don't think about it till the next month.
Right.
So they're going to look at you like you have 3 heads.
Yes.
If you're like, oh, we haven't had sex in 3 months because I've been on my period for 3 months. So
And they're like, what
yeah,
are you
like,
talking about? Yeah.
so I just had not heard anybody
Yeah.
say how it affected their partner, prior to that.
Well, I hope to see you in the morning and I bring treats to my sessions.
Yeah, sexy swag.
Oh, can I give you a tiny of my treats or what we're talking about? Like, that is the surprise. Yeah, I know. If you've been in a session with me, you know what it is. How would I answer the question of how to? So I think let me read. Okay, here we go.
Take a moment.
Let me
Yeah.
The first and foremost thing is we have to expand our definition of what sex is. Right? We have been taught that it is penetrative, right? But we need to think about sex being this giant, beautiful Gulf umbrella. And underneath it are so many different ways that we can find pleasure with our partner. So maybe having no genital stimulation, right? And then there's a lot of other things to incorporate. And that's what we'll talk more about tomorrow. But it's about how we define it, right? Society has not done us any service in regards to how we learn about sex, how we learn about our bodies. I mean, for the love of God, the clitoris wasn't fully, which I have earrings on, just so you know. So good from hair wasn't fully discovered. The full structure of the clitoris wasn't fully discovered until 1994 or 5. And no, I am not fucking kidding. Yeah.
It's like 20, 21 years ago. That knowledge is 21 years old.
21. Right, that's it,
How
much do you think we know about the male anatomy? Everything, right? So we're leaps and bounds behind, right? And how we treat women in our society is awful, right? And that has everything to do with pleasure and sex and power, and it all goes together.
But it all goes together. The way it stays awful is by keeping us isolated. You mentioned
Correct.
isolation from a partner, perhaps from your sexuality, isolation from anyone when you're the only one experiencing the thing you're experiencing, when you're isolated from medical help, even as you're seeking it because you're being dismissed or denied.
Yes.
The thing is, right now in this group, we're not so isolated, and there's power in sharing stories with each other. We thank you so much for being open with us today. We do have more opportunities to speak. We have a Calendly. We want to know, how's your flow? We're also collecting the data in hopes to share and make some change, as we always do. Is there anyone else who wants to speak before we have to wrap up for time today?
I just want to say that, the datum about 94 and 95 is when we finally figured out the structure of the clitoris. I can't help but think of the cultural practice of cutting and removing the clitoris, removing sexual.
Yeah, female mutilation. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. It will be done because we are women, right? And it's about power. So, but we're not gonna go down that path right now. But yes.
No, but tomorrow, the thing is, what's amazing about Sarah's work is that being a pleasure activist, if you will,
yes.
Your pleasure is about re-engaging with power and body awareness. Again, we do thank you for flowing with us.
Yes, we appreciate all of your stories and knowledge.
And we're learning so much. I hope to flow with you again.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Flow is produced by Bloodstream Media. Big shout out to our creative director, Amy Board, and to our editor, Alex Watson. Episodes of Flow will be available the second Thursday of every month.
Hey, that's the day after I start menstruating.
And thanks to our sponsor, Takeda, for their support of Flow.